Hello, my name is Jonathan Torres, and thank you for joining me for the Marketing Research Business Library Databases and Datasets workshop. Just to give you an overview of the discussion, I'm going to give you an introduction of our Business Research Library and team. Next, I'm going to show you where to find your library resources and research guide. And lastly, I will provide you guys with hands-on experience that you can apply to your project. So just to give you an overview of our Business Research Librarian team here at Rutgers University Newark, it consists of Roberta Tipton and I. So prior to coming to Rutgers University Newark, I was the business librarian at the University of Arkansas Fayetteville, and prior to that I worked at Cornell University. And if you've never interacted with a business librarian, we're here to help you with your researching needs. So whether it's identifying industry reports, market reports, consumer data, or etc., we are here to help you, and I will provide you with my contact information towards the end of this workshop. So we're going to be looking at two different aspects of research, primary research and secondary research. So primary research deals with survey information. So let's say, for an example, you wanted to do a survey based on consumer preferences. You can use the software Qualtrics, which is a survey software that you can do surveys, you can export the data, and you can manipulate the data however you want. With secondary research, these databases such as Privco, Mintel, and IBISWorld collect the information for industry, market, and consumer data, and they publish this information. And a lot of the information and reports that they publish, many organizations around the world pay top dollar for. So how I like to break these tutorials down is I like to base it off a case study analysis. So we're going to be focusing on two different case studies, and we're going to pull the information that's needed for each and every case study. So let's say we were doing a company research report for Tyson Foods, which is one of the premier companies within the United States. So if we wanted to do a research analysis report for Tyson Foods, what type of information do you think we would need to find? Industry research. So we want to look at the industry from a macro perspective because it might provide us some insights on what's going on with Tyson. So if we looked at the poultry industry and we wanted to see whether things are going good, whether things are going bad, it's more or less identifying things from a macro perspective. Competitor information. It is always good to look at the competitors because then it shows us how Tyson Foods is navigating through this particular industry. And we're going to take a look on how to pull competitor information based on the company that we're researching. SWOT analysis reports. So SWOT analysis stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of a particular company. And this provides us insights of the ins and outs of the particular company that we are identifying for our research project. And M&A data. M&A stands for mergers and acquisitions. So we want to look at what companies are Tyson's merging with or whether they're acquiring, because this gives us insights on their future endeavors. The second case study is focusing on a hypothetical company within central New Jersey. And we're going to call this company Longevity Craft Beer and Brewery. So the problem for this particular case study is a gaming brewery would provide central New Jersey residents who are 21 and over with a new form of entertainment, as well as develop craft beers that are infused with CBD, fruits, and selected vegetables. So what type of information do we need to find in order to create a market research report for this small brewery company within New Jersey? Competitor information. So this is something that we're going to be looking at on several occasions, is identifying the competitors. Because if we're doing a brewery company within the state of New Jersey and within the city of Newark, we want to identify the competitors to understand whether it's a good place to create a brewery within this particular area, or just to look at the competitive landscape in general. Industry reports. This goes back to case study 1, and this could easily be applied to case study 2. Is looking at the brewery industry from a macro perspective to see what's going on within the brewery industry. Market data. We want to understand the market trends and what's going on within a particular market. Consumer data. We want to know whether people are drinking, whether they're going out. Well, due to the pandemic, no one's going out, but we want to see what people's preferences are. So it can be whether people prefer light beer compared to dark beer, and etc. And product information. We want to understand, once again, the preferences, what people drink, where people are buying their products, and etc. So the first place that I'm going to have you guys go to is libguides.rutgers.edu/marketing, and it's right here. So I'm going to back out of my PowerPoint presentation, and I'm going to open it up right here. So this is the research guide that you should be at. And the research guides are for classes designed like this, where we put the databases that pertain to your project on one page. So instead of looking through 325 different databases that are cross-disciplinary on the library website, you can go directly to this research guide and find the databases that pertain to your project right here. So the first place we're going to go to is the Company Research tab. From here, what we're going to do is we're going to collect competitive information on our first company, which is Tyson Foods. And then we're going to collect company information on our small hypothetical brewery. So I'm going to click on Merchant Online. So it's going to be the third one on the right-hand side. And once you click on Merchant, you're going to click on Connect. And it's going to ask you for your login credentials. And you're going to put in your net ID and your passcode, as if you were entering your email credentials. And here we go. So Merchant Online is a business database that captures public businesses' data. So whether it's financials, whether it's competitor information, and etc. They do collect private company information, but it's not as strong. So my recommendation, if you're focusing on a public company, you will want to use Merchant. If you're focusing on a private company, there's other strategies on how to collect this data. So what we're going to do is we are going to click on Company Research, and we're going to type in Tyson Foods, and it's going to come up. I'm going to click on the company of my preference, and you can see right here where it has a variety of different tabs. It's going to show you key executives. It's going to provide key financials, and we can just click on some of the tabs. So let's look at their company financials, and you can see that it's providing a snapshot of its annual balance sheet. We can see cash and cash equivalents. We can see processed products, livestock, and it gives us a wealth of information dating from 2015 to 2019. And what we can do is we can look at it from all years available, from 15 years quarterly. Click on refreshed. And there we go. And if we wanted to export these financials, all we would need to do is click on the download icon right here on the Excel spreadsheet. And here we go. So these financials are collected and simplified in Merchant. The next thing I want to show you is the Competitors tab. And once we click on the Competitors tab, you can see that it's classified based on public competitors within the US, right? So we have a variety of different ones. Private companies. So we have a lot of private companies as their competitors, and public global. So I just want to give you an example of the difference between how companies and databases such as Merchant collects public information compared to private. So just to point out the obvious, for public companies, they have to disclose their financials. So it's easier for a database company such as Merchant, to collect their financials and to collect insights on the company because they collect it through 10K reports, annual reports, and etc. For private companies, they do not have to disclose their financials. So I'm going to go back to the private tab. And I'm going to click on this company from Beijing, China. And as you can see, there are no company financials because this is a private entity and they do not have to disclose their financials. So just keep that in mind. If you are doing a private company, it may be a little more difficult to get that type of information compared to a public company within the US. So I'm going to go back here. And it may be taking a minute. So once again, the features on this particular database, you have the downloading features, you have a variety of different tabs such as company financials, you have the key executives and their salaries, and this is a very, very good resource to use if you wanted to look up company information, you wanted to look up their financials, and even if you wanted to look up their supply chain, you can click directly on their supply chain and go directly to it. And here it goes. So it's going to show you their top main suppliers and etc. So once again, for public company information, my strong recommendation is to use Merchant. So I'm going to go back. My apologies for all the clicks. Alright, so now that we collected competitor information and some other insights as well for our public company, what we want to do is we want to collect competitor information for our brewery within central New Jersey. So the difference between collecting competitor information for a big top tier company is a lot of big research and database companies already collect this information because if it's a top tier company, that information is easily collected. But if we are doing a research report for a small brewery within central New Jersey, usually information is not collected that easily. So it's going to be up to you to collect the competitor information and all the other aspects. So how do we collect the competitor information for a small brewery company such as the one for case study number 2? The place that we're going to go is we're going to stick to company research and we're going to click on reference USA. And we're going to repeat the process. From here, what we're going to do is we're going to click on US businesses. And from US businesses, what we're going to do is click on advanced search. From advanced search, we are going to identify the industry that we're looking for. So we're going to click on business type. And since we are a brewery slash bar, what we're going to do is search breweries first to identify the industry that we're looking for. So we can click on brewers. And I think that's it for that. And since we are somewhat of a bar, but given the fact that now with COVID-19 and the whole pandemic, things are going to be shifting. But we're going to click on bars and we're going to find our industry. So we're going to click on bars. And as you can see, every time I click here, it's going to be in the selected items, right? And we're looking at other ones, sports bars, and etc. So now we identified the industry that we want to look for. So brewers, bars, and sports bars. And now what we want to do is identify the cities that we want to collect competitor information from. So from geography section, we're going to click on the city and state. So what you're going to have to do when you're using Reference USA is scroll down for this section, and we're going to identify 2 cities for this particular example. We're going to look at Newark, New Jersey. Okay, I thought a variety of different ones would show up. Perfect. So you can see that there is a bunch of different cities in the United States, but we want Newark, New Jersey. And how about its neighboring city, Harrison? And here we go. So now that we identified the industry that we're looking at, that we're identifying, and we're identifying the cities that we want to look up the businesses that are there that correlate with this industry, we're going to click on Update Count. And you can see that there's a total of 55 different businesses that fall under this particular industry. And we're going to click on View Results. And here we go. So you see that there's a variety of different businesses within this city, and it has a variety of different information. So I'm going to show you how to export this data and how to look at it. So this blue box up top here, we're going to click, because then it's going to click on the entire list. We're going to do page 2. We're going to do it once again. And 3 out of 3 pages, we're going to click here, and we're going to click on Download. So from download, it's going to have a couple different steps. So select your file format. We're going to keep as is. But for step 2, what we're going to do is we're going to click on Detail. We want to include all the data, especially when we want to assess competitor information. From here, we're going to click on Download Records. So I'm going to click here. And here we go. So not only is it going to give us the company name, it's going to give us the executive's name, the address of the business, the county that it's in, the classification codes, so whether it's the North American Industry Classification Codes, it's there, phone numbers, and etc. But what I do want to show you is I want to show you some different tabs over here that might interest you. So let me just identify some of the data that may interest you, such as this. So if you're looking at competitors' data, maybe this might be important. Location, employee size. We are looking at sales volume, so it's given an estimate of the sales volume. Location, sales volume actual, so how much they made annually, what type of business it is, and etc. So a lot of good information you can use to identify competitors for local businesses. With the big companies such as Tyson Foods, we can get that information from Mergent. So these are 2 different strategies on how to collect competitor information. So now we're going to move on to our next segment, which is looking at industry information. So we collected competitor information for a local brewery as well as a big company. Now what we're going to do is we're going to look at industry information, and we're going to pull it over here. We're going to click on industry analysis, and what we're going to do is we are going to focus on IBIS World. And we're going to repeat the process once again. It may take a minute depending on your wireless connection. Okay, so IBIS World is a industry database that focuses on industry reports. And what we want to do is we want to identify what industry we're looking at, and we want to understand what's going on from a macro perspective. Okay, so we're going to go back to case study 1 with Tyson Foods, and let's say we want to identify their industry. So if you know what industry they're in, they are in the poultry industry. So we're going to click on the first one. And the good thing about IBIS World that it populates everything based on keywords. I'm going to click on that and click on search. And as you can see that there is a variety of different reports, and we're going to click on this first one once again. So IBIS World actually updated their interface maybe around 6 to 8 months ago, so it looks a little different compared to what it was. But what I usually like to do is I like to look at different sections, so such as industry at a glance. So if we go on the left-hand side, and it may take a minute. All right, perfect. So as we're looking at industry at a glance, it provides key statistic snapshots of the industry. So we can see the total revenue is 232.1 billion. The annual growth, 2015 to 2020. Annual projected growth, so forecasting data on what they project it's going to be, their profit margins, and etc. Based on this industry, they're looking at key trends. This is new within IBIS World. They've provided a SWOT analysis based on the industry. So some of the strength, the weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So we can see low volatility, a weakness, high competition, some of the opportunities, high performance drivers, and some of the threats, low revenue growth. So you can really get an understanding of the ins and outs of this particular industry from the SWOT analysis. We can also look at the competitive landscape, and it's going to show us the market share concentration. So 48.2% of major players and some of the minor players within this particular industry. Key success factors broken down based on different segments. Cost structure benchmarks, so based on industry, based on purchases, and etc. Their profits and what they predict their profits to be, wages, and etc. And let's say, for an example, you're not finding the company that you're targeting within this industry and you wanted to. All we would need to do is click on the search box right here, type in your company to see if it comes up, and here it goes. And it's going to show you that there's a total of 8 times that Tyson Foods comes up within this particular report, and you can go directly to the section, and it's highlighting all the keywords. So technology and systems, we can just go directly to it. This is great. And if you wanted to export the entire report, you can certainly do so by clicking on the download option on the upper right hand side. And here we go. And you can download it and save it. And if you're having any issues downloading any reports, please feel free to contact me during any time. And the same could be applied. So I'm just going to go back to IBIS World. The same could be applied to looking at industries for the smaller company that we're looking for. So if we wanted to type in breweries, we can just type it in, press enter, and we can identify the industry we want, and etc. So once again, whatever industry you're trying to identify, I would recommend searching here in the IBIS World. It has a lot of great reports. If you're looking at a particular niche industry and you're having trouble finding the reports in IBIS World, once again, feel free to contact us, and we may be able to find it in other places, especially when it comes to niche industry reports. So I'm going to move on from IBIS World, and the next resource that I want to show you, which actually has industry information, it has mergers and acquisitions and SWOT analysis reports, and this database is called MarketLine. So we're going to stick to the industry analysis tab and just click on MarketLine. And we're going to click on continue. Once again, repeating the process because we're off campus. So what we are going to do is, once again, MarketLine has a variety of industry information, market insights, SWOT analysis reports, mergers and acquisitions data, and etc. It's a fantastic resource for you guys to use for your research. So whether it's based on the top tier companies such as Tyson Foods, or if you are looking for industry reports on breweries for the company that we mentioned for case study 2, feel free to type it in. But since we're focusing on the bigger company, Tyson Foods, what we're going to do is type in the company name and click on search. And you can see what it does. It pulls everything that pertains to Tyson Foods. So whether it's industry profiles, case studies, other analysis insights, and company data. So I'm just going to show you the difference between the industry report that we looked at IBIS World compared to MarketLine's industry. So let's look at the United States industry reports on meat. Very different from what we saw with IBIS World, but it's going to provide us the market value data, market value forecasting, category segmentations, market rivalry, and etc. And we can just browse directly into these reports. You can pull information based on it. There might have a slightly different interpretation of the industry compared to IBIS World, and the reason why is because their analysts collect the information differently than the IBIS World. So just keep that with a grain of salt, but it's good to have other perspectives when you're looking at different industry reports, and that's why what I like about MarketLine is they provide a different perspective on the industry compared to IBIS World. So you can easily export this particular report whenever you want. And you can download it, you can save it, etc. So these are very easy to export. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go down from the industry profiles, and I'm going to click on Under the company section, we're going to find our company, which is Tyson Foods Inc., and we're going to click on it. From here, it's going to give us a company summary. You can see we can pull their financials from here. We can look at news, we can look at peers, research reports, SWOT analysis, and etc. So the good thing about this is look at all the research reports pertaining to Tyson Foods. We can look at their mergers and acquisitions data. So we're going to click on deals, and it shows a total of 67 different deals. From here, what we're going to do is we're going to look at mergers and acquisitions, and we're going to look at their trends. We're going to see what are they acquiring, so acquisitions within 2017, 2018, not much of acquisitions, but we looked at asset transactions in 2019, so that's very interesting. And then you can see some of the top mergers and acquisitions that they've acquired. So in August 30th of 2019, Tyson Foods acquired 40% of a fruit division called Guapo Vibra, and that's in Brazil, and other ones as well. So it's very interesting to see the trends of what they're acquiring, some of their assets, transactions, and things like that. So it really gives us insights on the details of what's going on within this particular company. I'm going to take a step back. And what I'm going to look at is I'm going to look at their SWOT analysis reports. So we're still on the same section. We looked at their mergers and acquisitions from the Deals tab. And what we're going to do is we're going to click on the SWOT analysis tab. And right here, it provides a great visualization of the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats that are for Tyson Foods. These were collected, analyzed, and interpreted by the analysts from MarketLine. So you can see some of the strengths are operational capabilities, weaknesses, product recalls, some of their opportunities, adaptations to emerging technologies, and some of the threats or competition in the food industry. The good thing about their SWOT analysis reports compared to others is they provide a breakdown on why this is a particular strength, and they provide an explanation why this is a particular weakness, so we can see product recalls, and it gives us an explanation why. Opportunities and threats against this company. And if you wanted to export this particular report, what you would do is click on the PDF on the right hand side, and here we go. So now we have SWOT analysis reports, we have industry reports, and this could be applied for case study 2. So if we wanted to look at breweries, however, given the fact that case study 2 for the small brewery company, if you're focusing on a small company, it's going to be very difficult to find a SWOT analysis, and you're probably less than likely to find a SWOT analysis report on a small company. It would have to be one of the big companies in order to get it. A Fortune 500 company. Tyson Foods, Walmart, Johnson & Johnson usually have SWOT analysis reports. For mid to small companies, it's less than likely that analysts, organizations, and database companies are not making SWOT analysis reports for those type of companies. So I'm going to exit out of here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at some other great resources such as Statista. And this is going to give us some additional insights on Tyson Foods. So we looked at the company research tab for competitor information. We looked at the industry analysis tab for industry insights and SWOT analysis. And now what we're going to do is click on the market research tab. And this is going to bring it all together. I think a lot of great resources are here. We're going to look at consumer data, and we're going to look at additional information. So what I'm going to do is let's look up consumer information based on breweries. We want to understand, are people drinking? What are they drinking? What's the age demographics? This is going to be very important. So consumer data, you would look directly to Mintel reports. Once again, repeating the process. And you have to agree to terms of use. Continue. May take a minute. Bear with me. Great. So now that we're in here from Intel, let's say we want to look up breweries. We want to understand, are people drinking craft beers or are they not drinking craft beers? But before we get into it, I just want to show you some of the trend drivers, identities, values, well-being, some of the demographics. So we can click on this and it's going to show you a variety of different reports. Back to school shopping. So I'm just going to click on this before we get into our report, just to give you an understanding of how it looks like. So these are the reports, market, consumer, brands, and data. And once again, this is for consumer research to understand what consumers are doing, what are the drivers, are they buying things, are they staying at home, etc. But I'm going to go back here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in, instead of typing in breweries, and what we're going to look for is consumer data, identifying what our consumers want and needs. And since we are looking at breweries, we can do craft beers, right? Because we want to understand our consumers, how they're drinking beer, etc., etc. So we can click on this report. And this is a fantastic resource to understand what's going on within brewery industries and what products people are drinking. So we're going to click on the infographic overview. I'm going to click on this tab. Click on screen version. And I'm going to scroll down. So we can see actually beer falls behind sales growth of other alcoholic beverages, U.S. retail market size, spirits, and wine slash sparkling wine beer. So this is very interesting to see. Some of the sales growth was in 2017. So we can see beer is at 4.8%. Wine has increased by 5.7%. But spirits is at 9.3%, which is really interesting to see. We're going to scroll down. We're going to see brand, styles led, product choice. And what we can see is the factors in beer choice in July of 2019. Right, so these are some of the factors that people picked on why they choose certain alcoholic beverages. 57% is the brand, 38% style, 25% pack type, 24% low price, 22% origin, and 19% low calories. Really good information in terms of consumer preferences. And we can use this to understand what the consumers want. That's the important thing. When you're looking at these consumer research products, product reports that Mintel has developed and they have published on their database, we can look at what's going on within a particular product, what consumer preferences, and what's going to be the future trends moving forward. So this is just an infographic overview. And I'm going to scroll down here and I'm going to click on the market. So we can look at the market size and forecast. And you can see from 2014 to 2019, they had it right around here. But this is their projected numbers on where they think it's going to be. Mintel does an excellent job in collecting this type of data. They provide the raw numbers behind it, the total of U.S. sales and forecast of beers, craft beers, and alcoholic cider, etc. So a lot of good information in regards to the market, in regards to consumer data, and most importantly, some of the top tier companies that are within this particular market as well. So I'm going to show you the brand and company and key players. We're going to click here. And imports and innovations drive the market. One of the best features about Mintel is they provide an in-depth explanation on each and every section, right? So cans account for 70% of launches, support eco-friendly claims, and they're going to provide a description. I'm going to go back really quick. And we're going to look at the consumer tab. And this is very interesting. So we have a lot of different factors, right? Beer purchase locations, attitudes related to health and nutrition. So this can be an important disruptor within this particular sector. Health drives my drink choices. I try to select the healthiest alcoholic option. Really great stuff. And I know that they have age preferences as well. That's somewhere within these reports. How they have it too is classified based on different generations. So Generation Z, Millennials, Generation X, Baby Boomers, etc., etc. So all good content. We can go back to the summary report. And now that we're back in the summary report, if you wanted to look at the raw data behind these reports, we could click on Data Book. And it's going to provide you the raw data and the data that they collected. So very good stuff. And if you wanted to export the entire report, all you would need to do is click on Full Report PDF. And here we go. So you could apply the same methodologies that we've been using throughout this workshop and identify poultry, identify meat, whether consumers eat meat, are they swaying away from meat, whether people are swaying towards more veganism or etc. So you can look at a lot of different things within these Mintel reports. So now that we looked at consumer research and we wanted to understand trends within breweries, we could always apply the same methodologies once again to the top tier companies for poultry, but I'll let you guys do that on your own. I'm going to move on to the next resource that I want to show you is Statista. So we're going to stay on this market research tab, and below Mintel reports we're going to click on Statista right here. And Statista has a variety of different information and data points that go for not only consumer data, it goes for market information, it goes for industry and company information. So the first example that I'm going to provide you is, let's see what they have for Tyson Foods. So we're going to select our preference, click on search. And you can see that they have a variety of different reports pertaining to Tyson Foods. Here's a very interesting one. They have a Tyson Foods ad spend within the US from 2013 to 2016. For all of you marketing majors, I think this is very interesting because you're going to see on how much they spent in advertisements within this time period. And you can see that there's a decline. So that's very interesting to see. Why was there a decline? Why wouldn't they invest um, within the upcoming years. We don't really know, and I think when you're doing your research, that's something that you may want to identify. Why? Why are these factors happening? Why was there an increase in advertising spending? And it slowly started decreasing from 2014 to 2016. So a lot of great information here that you can use for your research. It provides the details. That's a great thing about it. So it's actually showing you where Statista gets their data from, which is fantastic. And if you wanted to download these reports, you could always download it right here. So we can click on the PDF. And here we go. You can use this for your presentations. Please keep that in mind, that cite your information before you put in your research or for any presentation. And you can do an Excel spreadsheet, you can do PowerPoint, or you can download it as a graphic photo. I'm going to go back here. Once again, a lot of good different resources based on Tyson Foods, their sales. There's a complete dossier for Tyson Foods. So I'm just going to click on here. And I'm going to open it up. And we're just going to do a little scrolling. So we can see global overview, the US market, company facts, consumer behavior. This is a report all in one. It's a fantastic report that you can use once again. And it provides a lot of data visualizations. And the data for the most part is fairly new. It's 2019. Please keep this in mind. When these reports are published, the data were published a year back. So what that means is it's usually rare that you find the 2020 report until 2021 because things are usually published a year back, if that makes sense. So what I usually tell faculty and our students is work with the data that you're given. So if the data is back maybe by a year or maybe even 2 years, 2018 or 2017, that's okay. You just work with the data that you're giving in order to make your analysis for your research project. So I'm going to go back to the Statista homepage because I want to show you another example. So now that we captured a bunch of great information, which includes advertised spending within Tyson Foods, which is kind of difficult to get, let's look up breweries to see what comes up. I'm just going to type it in. And once again, fantastic resources. So the total number of breweries within the United States from 2012 to 2019. And we can see that there's been an increase in breweries opening up from 2012 to 2019. A great resource to have. The beer industry, etc. Once again, you can export this information. So very easy to use, a lot of good data that you can collect for your research projects. So once again, if you're identifying a big company, top tier company, once again, you can collect this information. If you're looking at things based on an industry or market, you can actually get this information from Statista. It's a great resource to use, and my recommendation, please use these resources while you're here. So I'm going to step away from Statista, and now that we gathered industry insights, we gather market data, we gather consumer information, we gather competitive information, we gathered a lot of good information, which also includes these SWOT analysis reports. What I want to show you is a little trick from Google that analysts use to collect information for more or less for smaller companies and smaller markets. So I'm going to go to google.com. And let's say, for an example, we wanted to look up breweries within the state of New Jersey, right? We cannot find any research reports based on it, but we wanted to find information on breweries within the state of New Jersey, and we wanted to know their economic impact within the state of New Jersey. So a way to look up certain things within Google is gathering information from associations. Just about everything has an association. So whether it's breweries, they have an association, poultry associations, food truck associations, just about anything has an association. And what these associations do is they collect this information from their members, and they usually collect reports, they create reports and they export them, and they give them to association members. So please keep this in mind before I do this search, is that not all associations are created equal. Sometimes they'll allow you to pull the reports for free, and sometimes you may have to be a member. So just keep that in mind. So what I'm going to use is the keyword breweries, and the Boolean operator and. So and is the connector between two keywords, and what we're going to do is type in association. Okay, spelled incorrectly, but lucky for us. Perfect. So once again, if you were doing something related to food trucks and association, technology and associations, this is the appropriate way on how to search for that. And you can see that there's a couple different associations. I usually choose maybe the top 3, so I'm going to choose besides the advertising, I'm going to choose the brewersassociations.org. And once again, we can assess the impact of breweries within the state of New Jersey from this association. So I'm going to click on State and Data. I'm going to click on Economic Impact. And it's going to give us a lot of good news. I was hoping that we can get economic impact based on state and data. So I'm just going to go back here and click on this tab, the Insights and Analysis. Okay. We're going to click here to Statistics and Trends. And what we're going to do is we are going to look up the state of New Jersey. Okay, so state stats. My apologies for clicking everywhere. So we're going to click on state stats. So it seems that they've revamped their interface a little bit from when I was here last semester. So from state and data, we're going to click on state stats. We're going to select the state. And the process of researching might get a little messy, which is okay. And we're going to minimize that. And we can see, here we go, 127 craft breweries, which ranks 20 within the US. Their economic impact per capita, and some of the data from 2011 to 2019. So really good information in regards to their economic impact within the state. So just as an FYI, you may not find all the resources and data within our library databases, which may require you to look at other creative ways of searching, such as looking through associations. And this is a prime example of that. So we can look at stuff related to breweries within a state, and this allows us to get granular within the data that we need for our research project. Okay, with that being said, I'm going to expand my PowerPoint slide. All the research that I've shown is available within these research guides, which is libguides.rutgers.edu/marketing. And I want to thank you for having me. Please feel free to contact me at any time at jonathan.torres@rutgers.edu. Feel free to follow me at JonathanLLIS, and feel free to network with me at Jonathan M. Torres on LinkedIn. Thank you so much for having me. Have a great day.